Hello and welcome to Azur Lane Meta. If after this video you want to help support the channel, please check out my affiliate store at kit.co/AzurLaneMeta. Today we are going to be talking about the Dreamwaker's Butterfly event and my thoughts on what the event will do to the meta and just games going forward. There's a lot of new ships, including the UR and the transport ships, and a bunch of cool new items for specifically those transport ships. So we're going to go through them. We're not going to talk too much about the new mechanics of the event. At the time of recording this, there's going to be out in for 8 hours from now. So by the time you guys are probably watching this, the event might even already be out. So you guys can just go look at that yourself. It does look like it's going to be a little interesting. These new portals kind of porting you everywhere around. Maybe it will be a little new things to spice it up, but I can't really say for sure. I'm not going to spend the time translating and going over that. So here we go. Let's get right into it. Let's start with the ship you guys are all interested in, the UR ship, Shinano, the carrier from the IJN faction. Let's see what she's about. Let's see if all of her hype is worth it. She's shiny, but is she good? So we notice she's heavy armor. That's expected, basically, based on history, but that's good to see. Best armor type for it. We got 8,600 health. That's actually a lot. It's significantly more than almost any other carrier. There are battleships that are in that range, but for the most part, that's really beefy. So right now we're seeing a very beefy carrier and something that's, yeah, a lot of power creep there in terms of the health and whatnot. Anti-air is, you know, above average. Air power is like pretty good, but it still is not like that. Air power is not that great. It's on the top tier echelon. It's with your, but it's not even the top. Like, there are SR ships that have better air power than this Shinano, but that's not everything. And interesting reloads, standard accuracy, evasion, whatever. Speed doesn't really matter. Luck 32 is actually higher than I thought for a ship that like basically sunk right off the bat of her being created from some unlucky torpedoes, but yeah, whatever. So actually we're looking at the stat pool here. We see that she's really tanky, but everything else, her evasion's pretty good actually, but not that great. I mean, for carriers, it's not that great. So realistically, we're seeing a SR carrier with a enhanced pool of health. So, and one of the things that carriers have problem-wise is being able to, they usually typically launch after your battleships and they have lower health than your battleships. So your battleships sometimes can kill them before they can do anything. Unlike in history, the opposite would happen. So this ship allows you to potentially tank more of that and actually get some of the damage off, but the damage, we'll have to see what it is. All right, let's look at our equipment. So the first slot is really interesting. You can equip any plane: torpedo bomber, dive bomber, fighter. You can equip all of them. 125% efficiency is nothing to strike home about. It's really on average, but the ability to not have to have a fighter in this slot is significant in terms of the surface DPS the ship can possess. You can in PvP use the torp bomber so you can get more crash damage. In PvE, you can use the dive bomber so you can get more splash damage. And in the very rare case that you want some AA help, you can, I guess, use the fighter. It adds a lot of versatility to her ability here by being able to swap out fighters when you don't want them. We got a dive bomber at 130 standard and a torpedo bomber at 135. These are okay efficiencies, but I'll have to remind you that something like Hiru, which is the PvP meta standard for a carrier, has 150% efficiency for your torpedo bomber. So efficiency about average. Once again, her offensive power so far does not speak UR. It speaks very good SR. And that's fine. I'm okay with that not having too much power creep. Now, we will have to see what the skills have, so the skills can change this a lot. But so far, not too much of a power creep, but we have a very bulky carrier, which allows her to survive longer. So let's get into skills, because those will make or break this ship. Something tells me that these three skills are going to be pretty good. First one, 3 seconds after battle starts, you launch a Scion recon plane. Okay, what does this plane do? Basically, all it does is this debuff. It reduces the firepower, torpedo, and anti-air of a single ship by 3%, increases the damage that ship would take by 3%. It only targets one ship. It prioritizes humanoid characters, and it can be stacked 3 times. It lasts until the end of the battle, so potentially 9% by the end of the battle. I'm not exactly sure what this would target in PvP-wise, but this debuff is pretty marginal. I mean, it's nice. I definitely like it. It is guaranteed. It happens 3 seconds into the battle, and then whenever you launch the airstrike, you also get another one, it looks like. So that's pretty good. You also get some extra planes when you launch airstrike, so this is going to increase your damage by quite a bit. But the planes that she's getting, like, you're going to get your 2 500-pound bombs, and then your Ryuseis are going to get, yeah, so there's a little extra damage here. It's not terrible. I definitely appreciate it, but it's not something like an SS6 extra airstrike that she has, but it is an extra damage. The recon plane is kind of nice. I like it. It's a good skill, but it's not gonna be amazing, but we still got other things. All right, moving on here. For the first 2 battles of a sortie the ship participates in, you increase her own aviation by 15%, so that makes her even bigger. That's nice. First two battles screams to me PvE ship, PvE boss fleet ship. Okay, continuing. Every 15 seconds we get a guaranteed special barrage. I'm playing that barrage now. It is beautiful. I love this barrage. Good job. I really like, yeah, this is beautiful barrage. And well, how does it do damage wise? It does okay. 20 by 50 coefficients are 100%. Scaling with the aviation. Okay. It does some damage. All right. So anyway, we get this barrage every 15 seconds. 15 seconds is nice. It's not a 20-second one. It's guaranteed, so that's pretty good too. But it's all right. When it's other ships or other fleets in the sortie enter their 3rd, 4th, or 5th battle, and the ship is alive, fire a support barrage for 15 seconds. All right, so this once again has those cross-fleet skill, which is really good for something like Operation Siren or really anything that do. So this right now, this skill right here is a PvE skill. It's PvE, not PvP at all, and it is for the boss fleet. So Shinano is a boss fleet PvE ship. This is what this skill tells me right here. And, you know, 15% extra aviation is nice. The barrage is fairly nice, and the support to your mob fleet when it starts getting low in that ammo department is going to be nice. So definitely good. Now we got to the last skill here. At the start of while alive, DDs in the same fleet gain 15% firepower, evasion, and anti-submarine warfare. Okay, this is pointless. I mean, not pointless. I mean, it's nice, but it's like DDs. Okay, DDs are not really relevant at all in any really late game PvE. You got Yukikaze, maybe. You got Kitakaze, maybe Tashkent. It's really about it. Potential that there's a new DD SR that is going to be coming in this event, so maybe that ship will be good. But yeah, this is like, and then we're going to buff firepower, which most DDs don't care about. We're going to buff evasion, which has diminishing returns on very high evasion destroyers, which are the good ones. And anti-submarine warfare right now is useless. Maybe in the future it becomes better. This part of this skill is kind of meh. Really meh. At the start of the battle, if you have 3 or more Sakura Empire ships, okay, so we need Sakura Empire ships, so this even puts that first part of the skill even more into the department of we need to have mostly mono Japanese ships. But, you know, potential we could run maybe Tashkent. I don't know. It's going to be Kitakaze or Yukikaze, really. You reduce the damage taken by gun damage and aviation damage to herself by 20%. Okay, that's really good. 20% decrease in the damage, basically coming from your opponent's backline, is solid. It's 20% is a lot. This makes her effective HP pretty much jump up to over 10k with heavy armor. And yeah, she is going to be really hard to kill, so keep that in mind. We have a ship that is going to be extremely beefy. That's really what we're going to say here. Sakura Empire carriers and light carriers gain 15% aviation and accuracy. Those are the 2 best stats for a carrier. I don't really see her being used with any other IJN carriers, so it's really just a self buff until we get more carriers potentially. But this skill's interesting. I mean, 20% debuff to damage is insane. So what do I think about this ship? This ship is very good. It's like an upgraded Taiho. Taiho was kind of a flop when she came out, and this ship just kind of takes everything Taiho is trying to do and just one-ups it. And so I think that makes this ship very usable. What it's going to do is it's going to allow the Japanese fleets to have meta compositions for late game high enemy aircraft power missions. So something like a World 13, this starts to become really relevant because now we have the ACV covered. We have a bunch of the kind of damage covered, because that's something that kind of IJN carriers lack. The Akagi and Kaga strike really quickly, but not a lot of damage. Hiru has the survivability, but not necessarily the most damage. This ship has a lot of survivability, and she has a lot of damage, but she's not necessarily fast. I don't know if this is going to replace your Namagi Spite or Namagi FDG or Namagi Ru per se. I mean, she does have like over 2k more health than Hiru and better armor typing. So potentially, it's whether or not you want to give up that 15 seconds. Her obvious best pairs are going to be with Amagi and Nagato. Nagato going to boost that damage to absurd levels, and Amagi going to help her dodge attacks with that evasion rate boost that she desperately needs, because she's, prime target to be hit, but HP pool is pretty big. Very good ship. I think she's totally worth the 400 cubes to invest to try and get her. Yeah, that's really my thoughts here. But she's not going to be the whole meta-breaking ship that I think everyone was expecting. I think she's going to be really good, but I don't necessarily put her on the game-breaking FDG scale just yet. But I think you can pretty much use her in any content you want. If you want to use Namagi Nano, I don't know. I don't know what the new it's gonna be like. Namagi Nano. That doesn't sound very good. I don't know. Whatever it is, I think she's gonna be super solid. You can use her PvE content. She's gonna be everywhere. It would have been nice to have an early strike so that maybe potentially use her in EX modes. But I think there's probably other better compositions for EX modes and such. But Operation Siren, I think she'll be very good as well, especially that cross-fleet barrage and whatnot. So for IJN players, this is pretty much a must pick up. Bolian, we're not going to talk much about. You're going to use her just to upgrade Shinano, maybe save a few for the new URs that are going to be coming next year. Let's move on to Key Battleship. This is the one that we kind of got teased on. I was really excited for this one. Nervous that it's going to be kind of overshadowed by the UR ship. We'll see how this battleship works. So she's got heavy armor, she's got a good health pool, she's got good firepower, she's got a torpedo stat, so we're probably going to get a torpedo skill. We got good anti-air, interesting. Reload's not bad, accuracy's solid. Luck is a little low, but it doesn't really matter too much. Invasion is, okay, stats, super solid battleship, very much like Sugura, her sister, so nothing there. Efficiencies, everything's just fine. BB gun, yeah, everything's just fine. So stat-wise, she reminds me a lot of her sister, Suruga. Suruga kind of had this great stat line and really boring, not that effective skills, to the point where Suruga would pretty much, if she was in a different faction, would probably be used, but because she's in the overloaded IJN faction, she just doesn't really claim a spot. We'll see how Key does with her skills. All right, so here we go. We got a skill every 20 seconds, 75% chance to fire a barrage. I'm showing the barrage right here. The barrage does a lot of damage. It's got HE and AP types of ammo. It has great clearing. This is a fantastic barrage. I mean, the interesting part is this barrage almost needs to be used in the flagship spot to be full effectiveness. And as we all know, the flagship spot in IJN fleets goes to one ship only, really. And so you don't really want to have a ship that has to be there. Mikasa's not a bad ship, but she just has no way to compete with Nagato, so you can't really use Mikasa ever because Nagato exists. So this barrage is nice, but once again, it's kind of a barrage that really needs to be put in the flagship spot. Okay, we only got one other skill here. All right, hopefully it's good. While alive, increase the Sakura Empire main fleet's AA by 15%. AA doesn't matter for PvP, and for PvE, Sakura Empire is typically not used in kind of fleets that need that AA, but it does kind of help mitigate the damage that you get from Nagato and Amagi's low AA. This kind of boosts that up. Not super important, but it does do the whole backline, so it's solid, and it's just permanent. It's just while she's alive. At the start of the battle, if you have 3 or more Sakura Empire ships, once again, playing on that synergy, self-buff the firepower by 10%. That's not bad. Nice. Take it. And the Vanguard Torp by 10%. Well, that's actually very solid. The whole Vanguard Torp. And of course, we're going to be playing the IJN meta, which is Torp meme meta. So the 10% boost is actually really solid, but overall, this ship is really bland to me. I mean, she's got all the stats there. All of her skills just add on. She's got a nice barrage. She's got a nice skill that she has. She increases, important firepower. She buffs the whole Vanguard, but she really just kind of lacks kind of an identity. So I don't know. I mean, you could use her for things where you want to use your Vanguard to kind of snipe out some things, but once again, she doesn't have anything early. She's going to be firing slow. She's got a barrage that fires at 20 seconds into the battle. That's really slow. So it's not like EX modes is going to be on the table for her. A 75% chance rate, I mean, it's, pretty nice, but also not guaranteed. So I don't know. This ship is good, but it's kind of a disappointment, and it is kind of going to be overshadowed by that UR, which is, I guess, fine. You can't have every ship be good, so that's fine. This ship, what I will say though, is really solid for people that don't have Nagato Amagi. So if you want to play an IJN meta and you're a newer player, and this is a ship that you're going to want to pick up, because every person needs a barrage battleship to clear content in the game, and most barrage battleships come from events. And this is the barrage battleship that's above average from this event. If you're a newer player, this is the ship that you want to pick up in the event, because it's just so powerful to have that barrage, and she really just suffers from the fact that she's in a faction that is so oversaturated with powerful ships that she really, once again, just like her sister Sugura is a really good ship, but once again, just kind of overshadowed by some of the meta giants that happen in the IJN faction. And if the ship was in any other faction, I think we'd actually probably play it more, potentially. But yeah, I mean, the ship is solid, and definitely pick it up. Could be useful, especially when you need 4 fleets for Operation Siren. If you're probably going to want to pick her up. Most people are. I'm going to probably want to use her and maybe potentially level her, but she's kind of bland and definitely overshadowed. So we're going to go into our last SR here, the Destroyer Suzutsuki, and she's a light armor, which is standard for IJN. Health is low, that's standard. Firepower is low, that's standard. Torpedo stats, decent. Anti-air is actually a little higher than I expected. Reload's fine. Accuracy is fine. Evasion's fine. Luck, speed's alright. Anti-sub, whatever. Okay, so stats are pretty standard. In terms of the efficiencies, I would have liked to see a little bit higher on that torpedo efficiency, but AA efficiency is actually really solid, surprisingly. So I really hope they don't make this an AA destroyer boat. Like, she's got a good AA efficiency, she's got good AA stat. Alright, whatever. At the start of the battle, for every Sakura Empire ship in fleet, self-buff the firepower and anti-air by 5%. So that means potentially with 6 ships, you could have 30% buff to each of them. I mean, it doesn't buff torpedoes, guys. Like, okay, so sure, you buff 30%, you're 81 firepower. Okay, and once again, like, if you're trying to use this for PvP, anti-air doesn't matter. Okay. For every 2 planes shot down in the AA circle, oh gosh, I don't like to see where this is going. They're gonna make her an AA destroyer, guys. Gained another stack of the same buff, capping at 6 stacks. So in theory, if you're using an all IJN meta fleet, you could put her in this. You get 30% buff at the beginning, and then you get 5 additional ones. So that's like 180% boost to firepower and anti-air. So 180, I mean, her firepower starts to be relevant, but that means you'd have to shoot down like at least 10 planes. Her AA like would actually be really good, and she's got a good anti-air efficiency. They freaking made her an anti-air destroyer. That's so weird. Like, IJN destroyers are meant to dodge your opponent's attacks and fire really powerful, hard-hitting torpedoes with high accuracy. This ship is trying to be a USS cruiser. Like, she's trying to be a USS cruiser with firepower and anti-air and... Okay. This is... Alright, we'll see what the other skills are before I make an assessment here, but... Alright, that's just so weird. So, 3 seconds after the battle starts, deploy a smoke screen and fire a barrage. Okay, the barrage is not bad. It's got normal ammo, though, but those also have modified efficiencies to make them decent. Okay, whatever. Friendly ships in, this is the smoke screen, gain 40% evasion rate. Oh my gosh. 40% evasion rate while in the smoke. Lasts for 5 seconds. Okay, this is by and far the best smoke screen in the game to date. Holy crap. 40% evasion rate basically is amazing. And if it was 40% evasion, it'd be like, meh. But evasion rate means that you're not going to have the diminishing returns that high evasion has. And 40% is nothing to scoff at. I mean, Belfast was so good for so long because it was like 30%. Oh gosh. Okay, this is pretty much the best smoke screen ever. This kind of makes me relook at this ship. I mean, you might just use this ship for that smoke screen. Holy crap. Yeah, all right, let's keep reading the skill so you can, and then I'll give my full thoughts. Every 15 seconds after the battle starts, fire this barrage again, guaranteed. 30% chance to deploy the smoke screen again. 30% chance is a little low, but that's, I mean, in theory, that keeps proccing. That's the best smoke screen I've ever seen in this game. When HP falls under 20%, heal for 15% of max HP once per battle. I mean, why not just add a heal? Okay, so this skill is actually really good. This skill is amazing. This is what I'd want from my IJN Destroyer. We get a super solid smoke screen. So all of those HMS ships using the smoke screen, you guys just got power crept out by the smoke screen right here. This is the smoke screen of the future, folks. Kind of weird on a ship that has kind of some interesting identity. She has the stats of an IJN destroyer, which is basically like high torpedoes. She's got the efficiencies of an AA gun, an AA ship. She's got skills of a USS cruiser, and then she's got a smoke screen of the evasion tanks of the HMS faction. This is a weird ship. I don't know how I feel about this ship. Then we got a barrage here. This barrage is solid. Once again, normal ammo efficiencies are kind of changed a little bit. I mean, it's like a little machine gun here. Works pretty nicely. So this ship is interesting. So we see with 3 ships, the battleship, the UR carrier, and this SR destroyer, we see a lot of push towards having an anti-air Japanese fleet. So one of the weaknesses of the Japanese fleet has been anti-air, and anti-air has been all but irrelevant until Chapter 12, Chapter 13. Don't see too much relevancy in Operation Siren, none in PvP really, none in EX modes. So it's interesting. So we have kind of versatility added to the faction. Now the Japanese faction can actually somewhat compete with the USS faction in air power. Just kind of a weird thing to think about. Maybe we get USS ships in the future that allow them to compete with firepower of the Japanese, maybe. Or maybe not. Anyway, we get a lot of versatility, not necessarily straight power creeps in the departments of the ships that they talk about. So I'm not actually too sad that, you know, they changed some things up. It's interesting versatility. Definitely want to pick these up if you plan on playing IJN ships in the future. All right, so let's move on to the elites. So we got Chitose and Chiyoda. They're light carriers. I doubt they'll be any good, but we'll see. Stats are terrible, like absolutely terrible. Efficiencies, I mean, not very good either. We got a fighter plane and an AA gun. All right, let's see. Anything in the skills? All right, their first skill is literally identical. Okay, when launching the first airstrike of a battle, launch extra seaplanes. Okay, not that important. On the second one and everyone after that, you have a 70% chance, so you can literally miss on that extra battle, whatever. The seaplane damage is enhanced when you basically have other Sakura Empire light carriers, so if you put them together, whatever. Okay, what else do we have? All right, the second one is actually kind of a different skill. So on Chitose, we have on airstrike, other light carriers gain 15% aviation for 8 seconds. I mean, not a bad skill, but who's using light carriers from the Japanese faction? Nobody. Okay. And even if you are, they're not dealing any damage. You're using them to heal. And the other one, 25% on airstrike to deal double damage for the next 10 seconds. Does not stack. All right. So these are worthless. I'm not going to spend any more time on them. Just moving on. All right. Moving on to the elite Kumano heavy cruiser. We see health is actually pretty low for it. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. She's a torpedo heavy cruiser. So she's going to, you know, she's kind of like Takao and Atago. And we all know how good those ships are in the meta. Let's go into skills. After taking damage 3 times, reduce self-damage by 8% until the end of battle. 3 damage, or damage 3 times is really easy to get. I don't know why they just didn't do it as a standard across the board. Whatever, doesn't really matter. 8% is decent, but she's not really a tank. She doesn't really have any of the components that would make her a tank. She's got medium armor and she's got like 4,000 health and 82 evasion. So by no means a tank. At the start of the battle, if the fleet contains 2 or more Sakura Empire ships, You have an enhanced barrage. Okay, on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th battle of this ship's with this ship of the sortie, heal for 10% of max HP 60 seconds after the battle starts. Okay, so in PvE, on the even battles, 60 seconds in, she heals herself 10%. Okay, AP damage reduction reduced by 20%. Okay, I guess that's helpful given the medium armor. And then she's got a barrage, the one that is going to be enhanced. Okay, this ship is definitely better than the 2 light carriers we just covered, but probably mostly just a collection-only ship once again. Definitely better than the other 2. Maybe a usable tier, but that would be for low-level PvE, really, if anything. If you're a new player, you can pick her up if you need some heavy cruiser IJN ships to meet your hard mode requirements, but I don't think anyone else is really going to be using her. All right, moving on to the ship I'm probably most excited to learn about, just by the fact because it's going to be setting precedence for a new type of ship, and that's going to be the transport ship, the Kashino. She's an elite, so I'm worried she's not going to be super relevant, but we'll see what it is. Got light armor, I guess that makes sense. Health at almost 5,000 health. It's more than the heavy cruiser we just talked about. Firepower is minuscule like a destroyer. Anti-air is not that great either. Reload, all right, cool. Accuracy does not matter. She's not dealing any damage. Evasion is low. Speed is atrocious. Holy crap, 14 speed. Luck is kind of there. All right, she equips a destroyer gun. All right, no damage, doesn't really matter. AA gun, unfortunate that's 80% efficiency, because I was hoping this would be like Akashi but for the front line. Akashi is super good as an AA gun boat in like something like World 13 because she can defend with being an AA boat, but the penalty is giving up 1/3 of your main fleet damage, which is a lot of damage to give up. I was hoping that this would be like an AA boat in the front line that you don't necessarily have to give up that section. She's got a low AA stat and she's got a low AA efficiency, so that's a little downside. We do get 3 auxiliary slots, which is good because then you can play multiple high performance AA radars, but she's not very survivable, at least from her stats. We'll see what the skills bring, and her AA potential is not that great. Now, the interesting part is that transport gears are going to be separate gears, so you can equip them in the auxiliary slots of a transport ship, but you can't equip them on other ships. And the interesting part I see here is that there's an efficiency here for the auxiliaries that's typically not standard, so maybe a transport gear that we look at today or in the future is going to have some sort of ability to attack, which is kind of interesting to think about, but I don't know really why they put in this efficiency here at 100%, but the short answer is she can equip transport gear. So we'll see what her skills are, that's important, and we also get to see what the transport gears are, because those really can only be used if you use this ship. So let's see what we got. For the first 3 battles of the sortie with this ship, self-gun damage taken is reduced by 10%. This helps with that survivability. I mean, with the health pool, the evasion, and the light armor, she's not that beefy. There are definitely worse ships in survivability terms, but this definitely is appreciated. Unfortunately, it's only the first 3 battles, so this is kind of weird because you'd think that this would be a ship that you potentially want to use, maybe not on your main boss fleet. I don't know, we'll have to look into it. At the start of the battle, if the fleet contains 2 or more Sakura ships, increase the speed by +10. I mean, gosh, I mean, like, her speed was atrocious, and this just brings it up to like what a bad heavy cruiser would have. Like, she's still gonna be slow as all get up, but at least it's better. I guess, and it also plays into that mono Japanese kind of fleet that we are seeing a lot here from this event. Moving on, we get when equipped with a transport gear, self-burn damage is reduced by 15% and the burn time is reduced by 6 seconds. So basically a transport gear is equivalent to equipping a fire extinguisher for free. So transport gear is whatever it is plus a fire extinguisher, so that's kind of nice. And she has a barrage. It's HE, so I guess it can cause fire, but it's pretty terrible. It's a terrible barrage. All right, so this ship is not really anything to write home about from what we're seeing, but it's got special equips. So let's go take a look at the equips we get from this event and see if they're worth putting on. So the first one is the Type 94 naval gun parts, and this is got 750 health equipped, so that is just a complete blows out of the water all the other health equips that we have. And so your transport ships are going to get a little bit beefier. So maybe that's why their health pool is a little bit lower than usual, because we get extra HP from the equipment. When equipped by Kashino, so unfortunately this equipment is not going to be really relevant for future transport ships because its skill only increases. Increase main fleet and large cruiser firepower by 10%. Okay then. Well, that's an amazing skill. Yeah, that's actually just insane. I would say potentially worth actually going for. That's a really solid skill. Firepower 10%. Wow. Okay, so we help our survivability, and we actually have a reason to play it by boosting our whole backline. It doesn't say that it has to be IJN either, so Kashino could potentially be put with any of the other sections. You could put her with literally, I'm looking at UKMS, who needs some help with the AA department, potentially doesn't really have that many great Vanguard ships that you'd want to use, and you're focusing mainly on shell damage through Bismarck and Frederick. So interesting that it's there. This is a really good item. This is probably something you're going to want to equip. Kind of weird that it's only going to work on Kashino. I guess it is kind of like Yamato's gun parts, and I'm pretty sure Kashino was the one that was bringing equipments to that ship. So kind of interesting history there. Very good equipment for Kashino. Moving on, for the second item that we have for the transport ships, we have 550 health, so that's standard for SR section. Moving on, we have the aircraft carrier armor supplies. It gives 550 health. That's pretty standard for your SR HP equipments, so nothing too much to write home about, but let's see what we got. I guess it is an elite, so that's less prints, yay. Although, given that we potentially looking at plus 13 golds, that's unfortunate. When equipped by an ammunition ship, or basically a transport ship, it's, translated, so different meanings, but increase the aviation of all ships in the fleet by 8%. Okay, this is really solid. Yeah, this is just really good. Right now, firepower is more important, I would say, because battleship meta is really the way to go, but this is something you definitely want to pick up from this event because it could potentially be very useful. There's no restrictions on it at all, other than it has to be equipped by the transport ships. So in the future, we could get a transport ship for other factions, maybe the US, and potentially be able to boost our US carriers. So this is I can see a lot of potential here. So from the 2 transport items we get from this event, we see that transport ships are generally going to benefit from getting these special, very powerful items, kind of like how repair ships do. They don't necessarily have the anti-air power that your repair ships are going to have, but they do have some. So maybe you use one of these 2 items depending on what your main fleet is composed of, and then you use 2 high frequency anti-air radars and your best in slots choices for the other slots for equipment. And then Kashino potentially has some use in your Vanguard, buffing your attacks in late game PvE modes. I don't know. I really hope they come out with a better SR transport ship, and I imagine we're going to get some good equipments in the future as well. All right, we also got a new fighter, a Japanese fighter. It's got 2 500-pound bombs. It reloads off fast. It's your standard, everything you want from your any standard gold fighter. It does not compare up to the Sea Hornet, so it's not new meta. It is good though. It's definitely like in the ring, but typically if you have the Sea Hornet, you're going to use that. If you're using more than one fighter in the fleet that you need, then obviously once Operation Siren drops in December, you're going to have the potential to build more, but until then you need backups. The Pirate Squad's still probably the better option, but this is also around if you, I don't know, it's okay. I mean, I'm going to probably pick it up, but I don't really see this like being like you have to use this new fighter. Now, interestingly enough, we have the depth charge type Hedgehog. This is strange. It's from the Royal Navy faction, and it's equipable weapon. It's an equipable weapon. This is kind of strange. This just screams to me, along with all the other skills on these ships, along with the changes to anti-submarine warfare that allow all destroyers to reveal the ships. Cooper kind of got a debuff here because she was going to be like the queen. She probably still is the queen, but like she was like a requirement for anti-sub warfare, and now she's just like the best. So this is actually an equipable item, and it deals damage. It looks like it like depth charges, like you're firing at submarines. It increases your ASW instead of like your firepower like a normal gun would be. This is really interesting and just screams to me that we're gonna get some sort of big submarine event or mode in the future. I didn't see anything from Operation Siren, but that doesn't mean that more doesn't get added on because it's beta. Maybe World 14 is going to be submarine like everywhere. I don't know. This is going to be really interesting. So that's all I got for you guys today. That's all the ships and the items. Hopefully that helps you guys in figuring out if you want to spend cubes on this event, what you want to pick up potentially from the items and whatnot. And yeah, just gives you my thoughts on what you maybe want to level. I really think the new border frame is really cool, so I'm probably going to do everything that I can to get it, and that means that I'm going to be having to level all these ships anyway, and always looking for fleet tech, so that's going to be me, is I'm going to try and get all these ships. But for you guys who maybe are a little less on cubes and maybe not IJN meta, hopefully this guy will help you guys make decisions on where you want to spend your cubes and what you should spend your resources on. Take care, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you want to get more videos about this, and of course, if you want to hear the first actor news of whenever I hear things, you can go to my Discord server at discord.gg/AzurLaneMeta, and you'll get all this information as soon as I can get it and verify it. Take care.